Good morning. Today I'm with Mr. Justin Walsh, a dairy farmer from the Nowra area, and he milks about 280 cows. And he's been using the product X Zelit now for around 3 years. Before we start, it's worth noting some important facts in relation to managing the transition period with your herd each calving season. Did you know that 80% of all cow health problems occur within 4 weeks of calving? It's the most stressful period and is very demanding on the animal, causing low immunity and making them prone to metabolic diseases, such as clinical milk fever, the cows going down, mastitis, metritis, displaced abomasums, and more. Also, it's worth noting that it takes the same time of labour to nurse one clinical milk fever cow as it does to manage 30 healthy cows. So it's absolutely critical to the overall health, longevity, and profitability of your herd to get this right. And today we'll discuss Justin's experience in using the product X Zelit as a revolutionary alternative to the old, somewhat problematic system of using DCAD, which has been the only alternative to farmers over the last 20 years. So good morning, Justin. How are you today?
Pretty good. We're having sun's out, so it's a good day up here on the south coast.
That's good, mate. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your farm, some of the basics?
Yeah, so as you said, we're milking 280 cows, and we're in a twice a year calving system, 1st of March and 1st of August. And it's a predominantly pasture-based system. We feed grain in the dairy. We feed quite a bit of grain. We're sort of somewhere in that 2.2, 2.5 tonnes, depending on the season and prices, obviously. So, and we're basically in Nowra area, which is, for those who don't know, 2 hours drive south of Sydney, basically right on the coast.
So was I right, Justin, when I said you've been using X Zelit for around 3 years now?
Yeah, that's right. It is. I think this spring will be exactly 3 years since we started.
Great. So what were some of the problems you were having with calving generally that made you decide to try X Zelit?
Well, for years, obviously, like most other farms, I guess, we sort of used the DCAD system, but we tried to feed a lot of our own homegrown silage in the lead feeding period. So, which is obviously problematic because we just couldn't justify the extra expense of importing cereal hay just for that sole purpose. So when we sort of stumbled across X Zelit, the way it was explained to me, it seemed to me that it would fit our system really well, and that we'd be able to save a lot of money by not having to buy the cereal hays that we should have been doing. And because at the time we just had extensive problems with milk fever, I guess, but and we thought this would be a way that it sort of ticked all the boxes, and so far it's proven to be exactly that.
So Justin, you were using a DCAD system before X Zelit, yeah?
Yes, that's right. So and to be fair, we weren't doing it properly either. We weren't, as I said, we weren't using cereal hay. We were using our homegrown silage, which, and at times it was Kaikia silage, which is particularly problematic in its potassium levels. And so we were sort of always just fighting with the system. So then when we obviously changed over our system, it sort of has really revolutionised our lead feeding program, I suppose. So it's it's hard to sort of explain the change. It's been a complete change. So it's been really good.
Well, it's really taken the guesswork out of the whole thing because, as I understand it, DCAD is a good system if it's well managed, but it's not easy to manage. It's a very complicated system, and you've got to get your forages right and so forth, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And so, to me, it just seemed to fit what we were trying to do when we switched, because we wanted to be able to feed our homegrown feed to save money, and and the excellent system counteracted the problems we were having with feeding the homegrown feed. So to be able to bind the potassium up and be able to feed, our homegrown silage at $200 a tonne for round figures, and was going to save us a significant amount of money over the years. So, and then at the same time, we were sort of moving to our split calving system, which meant we had obviously large numbers because we were originally year-round calving, and we would then have larger numbers of cows to feed. So to be able to feed for a slightly shorter time also was a great labour saving as well. So to not have quite as many cows sort of in the Springers paddock, it was fitted in perfectly with what we were trying to do.
It sounds to me like the forage and the labour side of it is quite significant savings for you.
Oh, definitely. The labour, like we run pretty tight ship with labour, and so any sort of labour saving in that area would be my labour saving, which I consider to be fairly valuable, and so does my family. So anything that we can save that was going to save directly my labour, because I was the one doing that job, then it was really valuable.
That's good. That's great. And what about how are you actually feeding the product?
So we have our own, we have a milling system. So we actually crush our own barley and we mix some canola with it, and then we feed it in a grain mix between X-Zelit, barley, and canola. I think it's about 70% barley, and then and probably 15% canola, 15% X-Zelit. So don't quote me on those figures, but it's some sort of ratio like that. And then we feed it bucketed into troughs. To the cows. They get about 3 kilos a day of that mix.
That's great. And how many days are you feeding it roughly pre-calving?
Well, we try to make sure it's 2 weeks, but some cows are obviously a little bit longer than that. And if there is a cow that calves early, because obviously you always get some cows a bit early, and if she hasn't had it for the full 2 weeks, we'll keep a pretty close eye on that cow. Touch wood, we haven't had any great dramas with those cows. Well, we haven't had any dramas, I should say, with those cows. But we will definitely identify any cows that are sort of pretty short in that lead feeding period and keep an eye on them.
Yeah. So do you want to make a quick commentary on the ease of use of X-Zelit, the palatability, for instance, the cows eating the product, and calving itself?
Well, palatability, it's totally different to decad. So for those people, anyone who's used that system will know that cows don't like it. So, and it takes quite a while for them to adjust it. But with X-Zelit, there's no, the cows don't know it's any different to the grain, and there's absolutely no palatability issue at all with it. So, and especially that comes in handy, I find, with heifers. So, if there's competition at the troughs, which obviously would try and limit, but especially if the palatability issue is there, I've noticed that, heifers calving for the first time certainly take to the program a lot easier now than they used to.
Right. So calving itself overall, you're finding that there's no issues?
No, I mean, I would say it's definitely not worse than it was before, and it could possibly be better. I don't. If anyone was suggesting that it was problematic, I'd certainly refute that.
Yeah, good. And Justin, what about clinical cases? What about a quick comparison, like what you were experiencing by way of downer cows as against now?
Yeah. So just to rewind, and this will be probably hard to get your head around a little bit. So to rewind, with the system we were using, we were at the point where we were nearly intervening. When I say intervening, we were nearly giving every cow that calved, obviously not first calf heifers, but every cow that calved after that, 2 4-in-1 bags post calving, every cow. Wow. So because as a preventative, because we were having so many issues with milk fever. So fast forward to now, and I think that last year I could probably count the cows that we intervened on one hand. So I think we might have treated 3 or 4 cows, and having said that, those 3 or 4 cows probably wouldn't have even been treated previously because we had so many other more problems. So it's just totally revolutionised what we've done in terms of the labour efficiency of the transition period, I suppose.
Yeah, so that labour associated with nursing the cows that are down is quite significant. And also the cost of those 4-in-1 bags. I mean, how many are you using now?
Well, that was probably one of the trigger points for making the switch. When I actually, at the end of the financial year, went back and I actually looked at how much money we'd spent on like 4-in-1 bags. And I think off the top of my head, I think it was somewhere in the order of $4,000 or $5,000. And when I worked that out, I thought that this can't continue. So that was sort of really the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of we've got to switch. So and we haven't looked back since.
So you've the cost of those bags has dropped dramatically.
Yeah, I honestly think we might have used 10 bags this year.
Okay, so what we've got so far, you got saving on labour, you got saving on forage, and you got saving on these 4-in-1 bags.
Yeah, definitely.
And would you say that overall your herd is a healthier herd?
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing I would say, and I don't know if there's any scientific evidence for this, but I think that we've seen quite a big increase in the quality of the colostrum we're getting. So
yes, right.
Right. So I'm not surprised because we have fairly regimented calf rearing program. So, and we were testing, doing a lot of colostrum testing, or have done for quite a few years now. And prior to the switch to X-Zelit, it was sort of, we were, not struggling to find cows, but to find good quality colostrum, and we were pretty tightly managed that colostrum because it was trying to scarce resource, I suppose. But since the switch to X-Zelit, we've certainly seen a marked change in the cows. Like it's rare to find cows now that don't have quality colostrum. So and as I say, I wasn't aware of any scientific research that said that, but to me, that's been one of the real benefits because I know it's hard to pinpoint things all the time at exactly what's causing things, but our calf mortality rate has dropped and our calf, treatments and things like that have dropped at the same time. So, and I think probably after 3 years, it's at the point now where we can sort of confidently have some confidence in saying that X-Zelit certainly has to be playing some role there.
Yeah, it definitely is in the improved immunity of the dairy cow itself.
Yeah, right.
Can you comment on somatic cell counts? Any improvements in that area, or?
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of things changing in the last 3 or 4 years, but our cell count has dropped dramatically. But it's sort of a thing. It's hard to say. Yeah, that's the one thing that's doing that, but. We usually hover around between the 100 and 140 in the range, and we don't have excessive cows out of the vat and things like that. So we're really happy with where our cell count is at the moment. And as I said, I'm sure X-Zelit's playing some role in that.
That's great. And what about milking? Are you finding that the cows, when they come on milk, are they milking better? Are you finding you're getting more milk out of the animal, do you think?
Well, we are, but again, we've gone through a lot of change as well. So but we don't get one of the big changes being the lack of ketotic cows. So you don't get that big crash on those fresh cows. So that certainly translates into a lot of extra liters or solids, and that's one thing we have noticed. We just haven't had the cows that those ketotic cows that can cost you a lot of money, who then in turn are hard to get pregnant again and things like that. But it's hard to sort of say these are some exact figures on that, but anecdotally, there's certainly a link between all of the above, I guess.
Yeah, good on you. And what about the fertility factor? I mean, you've been on it 3 years now. Are you finding the fertility side has improved in any way, or?
Yeah, I'd say it has, because I think cow conditions certainly improve. As I said, we don't have those ketotic cows, so I'd like to say fertility's improved, but I don't have enough evidence to sort of say that. And then having completely changed our calving pattern and calving windows and things like that, it's really, we've got so many things changing. It's hard to sort of say, but I certainly wouldn't say it hasn't made it worse. My gut feeling is I'd be confident that it's made it better, but I don't have it. I don't have exact numbers to back it up for it.
No, that's fine. Okay, so were there any surprises? We're nearly finished here, but were there any surprises, for instance, when you first started using X Zelit, and you found you got some really, really good results, but were there any real surprises in there that thought, wow, this is a bit of a bonus?
Yeah, I think going back to the colostrum, I sort of never expected that. I thought, hopefully we'll see a reduction in milk fever cases and obviously metabolic problems at the changeover period, but the change in the colostrum has been a real eye opener for me. And then also going back to what I said about the heifers, we find that they settle into the dairy a lot better because they're used to eating the grain. So because by the time, if they're there for 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks, which some heifers will be in the lead feeding period, by the time they've had 2.5 weeks of grain every day, by the time they come into the dairy, they're totally used to and the rations are fairly similar, and they're totally used to it. And they settle into the dairy. We're finding them settling into the dairy and not getting acidosis and things like that. That's probably something that I had never thought of, but now makes sense having seen it in practice.
So I assume that you will continue to use X Zelit on your farm?
Definitely, yeah. No, I think I can't imagine not using it. I don't know why we would change, because it's been a massive success for us.
One last question. What would you say to anyone at the moment that's thinking about using X Zelit for the first time?
I would say definitely give it a go, because I will guarantee you it won't be worse than what you're doing. So I would say, I'll guarantee you that it won't be worse than what you're doing. So there's nothing to lose by trying it, and then I'll be very confident that you'd be happy with it. But as a worst case scenario, it'll be as good as what you're doing now.
Well, that's great feedback, and I'm so pleased that we've been able to assist you in providing a brand new product to the market. It's been going now for about 3 or 4 years in Australia, and you're one of the early uptakers. So thank you and congratulations.
It's no worries at all. It's been good, and I appreciate it.
Good on you. All the best. You have a great day, Justin.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay, bye.